Finales are hard. Yeah, they're tricky to get right. This one's all right. It's not amazing. X-Men 97 finale for the first season of this. Tolerance is Extinction Part 3. Um, I feel like this might actually end up being a shorter review than I expected it to be because I don't feel the need to go over that many points, largely because this is ultimately more than anything an action finale. And to be clear, that's fine, except the stuff from part 1 especially that I really loved and was really impressed by dealt with headier stuff than how we defeat the super sentinel dude, Bastion. And most of that, not all of it, but most of the headier questions, the philosophical questions, etc., have fallen away in favor of how do we defeat an undefeatable foe? And there's certainly entertainment to be had in that, and the action scenes are perfectly well done. I guess it's just in this show, when it's really good, like the first part of this 3-part story and like episode 5, the action, if it's there, can enhance or even lead and work very specifically with the specific messaging going on. Or it could be action that is just quite good action and the messaging is also there and they aren't really buoying each other. And when we're dealing with this big, massive foe at the end, most of the bigger questions that I was really enjoying and appreciating have either fallen away or been simplified. So what I mean by simplified is like the moment of Cyclops, saying stand down and like offering a hand to Bastion. The reason I feel that moment is oversimplified is because regardless of whether or not you think that he's doing the right thing or that is a good idea, and I do think there is a very valid argument to be had in either direction on that basically speaks to the heart of the Magneto Charles Xavier debate. I will come back to those two. Regardless, to him telling the team to stand down and offering a hand to Bastion. Because the nukes show up, fired by Earth for the Magneto Protocols thing, and he doesn't get to Cyclops quickly enough, and he is obliterated. So, having Cyclops make a stand like that, again, without judging whether or not that's what he should be doing, that is a big enough move that, like, there should be consequences to that. Positive or negative. Either way. But instead, we're going to have the intervention of, I'm not going to call it a Deus Ex Machina because it's been set up. So it's not like this came out of nowhere. It has precedent. That would be unfair for me to call it that. But it absolutely does remove the consequences of a complex situation. It simplifies it greatly. And that just bums me out a little. This is something I've been, like, if you listen to the Jumpgate podcast that I do with Jesse Gender, where we've been talking about Babylon 5, I go back and forth because sometimes J. Michael Straczynski, who is the creator and primary writer on that show, does a fantastic job of dealing with the messiness and the complexities of these really tense and volatile situations. And other times he will gloss over things or construct situations like this where, yeah, it would have been a complex situation, but let's just simplify it because we don't want to deal with that right now. And I always get disappointed when that happens. Not everything is obligated to deal with the complexities, but if you start to deal with the complexities, which Babylon 5 does, and this has been, when it's really good, I'm going to notice when you kind of cheap out and avoid the consequences. That having been said, this is why I really like the stuff that goes on between Charles and Magneto. And I especially like that Charles is determined to try and help him, try and save him, try and revive him. I really like this because Charles, at his best, is as complicated a character as Magneto is. Because whereas Magneto has very few qualms about doing horrible things for what are pretty understandable reasons, and repeatedly humanity, or at least significant swaths of it, validate his anger, if not his actions. On the flip side, Charles has the higher ideals, but will do things that are not okay. And when it's done badly, which sometimes it is in the comics, it basically just goes, ooh, Charles is really not a good guy, is he? But what happens here, because him taking over Magneto's mind to hijack his powers and reverse what he did, while I'm not going to say is something he should not have done, but it is an act that is abhorrent and is contradictory to his philosophy. And what I like is he doesn't try to justify or validate that. Instead, he goes in to try and save Magneto and help restore him because he, at least as presented here, appears to understand that, yes, he may have made a decision that he feels was the best one he could have made under the circumstances. But that doesn't mean he's not responsible for the fallout of that decision just because not doing it would have been worse. You will probably never hear me use the phrase, they had no choice, unless I'm deconstructing that concept, because you always have a choice. Sometimes your choices are between horrible options, and sometimes your best option still involves something terrible. And I would say Charles was definitely in that situation with this. But going along with that, just because you made the best choice under the circumstances does not absolve you from responsibility for the consequences of that choice. You can't just say, I did the best that I could and walk away from the fallout. You can't. Even if you can rightly claim, if I'd done something different or done nothing at all, things would be worse. Okay, fair. You are still responsible, though. You still bear responsibility for the impact of what you chose to do. And Charles's actions here goes along with that. So I'm really liking the way they're balancing his character. Because, yeah, what he did to Magneto is messed up. And he's trying to fix it. He's stepping up in the moment to try and do what he can to resolve, fix, to whatever degree is even possible, what he just did. And that's great. And I think the connection between Eric and Charles is handled very well, especially within the condensed time frame that they have to do it here. All that stuff I think is really good. Hampered slightly by the fact that I'm pretty sure that they're going to use this as an excuse to bring in Onslaught in the next season. I don't really like Onslaught as a character. But then again, I don't really like Bastion either. They still managed to do some interesting stuff with him. So, you know, maybe I should just wait and see. I'll put it this way. I'm not excited about the idea of the storyline doing Onslaught. I'm not going to assume it'll be bad just because I don't like the character, but I'm not going to get excited about it either. I will wait and see what happens if that actually ends up occurring. I'm not sure how much more I have to talk about besides that. Most of the beats I kind of saw coming. You know, Jean rising again as the Phoenix was a good moment. I especially liked Storm's reaction to that of just laughing, which just felt like oh, you messed up now moment. Like, that was good. The moments with Cyclops and Jean and sort of circling around Cable, those are still handled shockingly well, considering I don't like 2/3 of that trio. That's still handled pretty dang well. You know, Beast often gets sidelined as just the tech guy. I really love Beast. I really, really like him. Every time he's, you know, starting to do his tactical thing and he drops a little highfalutin reference to something, I'm like, I adore Hank. Hank's great. Kurt has some good moments in here. Wolverine basically is passed out this entire time. The moment with Morph, if I read correctly, it has been confirmed by Bo DeMeo, who wrote this and the next season before getting fired for reasons we still don't know. That whole thing is weird. But anyways, he has confirmed that is intended to be Morph basically confessing his romantic inclinations. I don't know what you want me to do with that. Like, you haven't, like, yeah, they've got good rapport, but I don't feel like this is earned very well at all. And I'll tell you what, it's not impossible to do something interesting with this. But it also could just be another, oh, here's a queer-coded character who's just going to pine for somebody. Boy, am I tired of that. I'm real tired of queer and queer-coded characters being lonely or miserable or in pain as a default. Because that... maybe they won't do that. I don't know. As a moment in and of itself, I just like, okay. Whatever. And then, we've got all the setups about them being scattered across time. We've got stuff with Apocalypse. I like that Hank gets the last line. Oh, dear. I love Hank. I love him a lot. And with Jean and Scott being flung into the future, and there's a version of Nathan there, and we'll see how that pans out. I don't know if this is just all Age of Apocalypse stuff. I know Apocalypse appeared in the original run of the cartoon. Did they do Age of Apocalypse, the storyline proper? I don't know. And commenters on these videos especially have been real quick to point out whenever something happened in the original series that I either forgot or didn't see because I didn't watch all that much of it. So let me know if they actually did Age of Apocalypse. Because if not, I assume they're kind of setting that up. At the moment, I appreciated the visual reference for Forge having the board with all the X-Men faces and like missing presumed dead, off-world, as kind of a visual nod to Days of Future Past, the comic, not the movie. That's just a classic visual, so that was cool. I'm not sure I've got too much else to say. Like this was primarily a big action finale with some decent emotional stuff in there. Most of it sort of couched in Charles and Eric. But by and large, like this was fine. I actually wonder if I would like this finale better if I were to marathon these 3 episodes. I might. I actually, for my experience of watching it at least, I actually think my enjoyment is lessened when it's sectioned off into 3 parts like this because it kind of sections off the real heart of the philosophical and allegorical and political points that are so heavily leaned on in part 1 and sort of feel like they're there less and less. Whereas I think if I watched this continuously as like in one shot, it would feel like, okay, they lay them out in the beginning and then those continue to thread through the other episodes. But watching them individually, they feel more closed off. So when the later episodes don't do as much with those ideas, it feels less like they're continuing to be threaded through and more like, oh, you're just not doing as much with them. So I'd probably feel different if I just back-to-back these. That's not necessarily me saying they should have had a finale that was like an hour and a half. Because that stuff actually tends to irritate me also. But I don't know. That thought's just occurring to me. It's pretty good. I look forward to the next season. I would still really like to know why Beau DeMayo was fired. I keep checking intermittently to see if that's been made public. There's speculation that it's because he has an OnlyFans account, a non-spicy OnlyFans account for the record, but just because of the associations that the site has, that there was that. There's also like some rumors that he was just really unpleasant to work with, which is not impossible, but like those are coming from fewer sources than people who said they enjoyed working with him. So I don't know what to make of this right now. I keep waiting to see like, is there a scandal or something like, and there's nothing. He was just let go. I don't know why. I don't know. It's weird. Anyways, I look forward to the next season. What did you think of this finale? Whatever you thought about it, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills, enables me to do this as my living, even if you can't help me out that way. Like, share, subscribe. Those all help. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can come on back next time you need a break. Now to give my thanks to my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfula, Goddess Elida, Oliver B., Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Jean Foray, Ulrich Bogdan, Loki Eris, Melinda Walters, Jen, Auntie Kate 808, Becky Sparks, Bernabi Likes the Poodle, Tracy Scrappett, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, White Bearish, Rosalind Bennett, Toka Blahuvian, Pau Barabajagal, and Mara G. Thank you so much for your support. You can get your name said, maybe even correctly, in the Patreon support tiers. Also, it helps me feed these little buggers.